day, sir. I'm here to discuss about learnings and understanding in UNCLOS, SOLAS, Load Line Convention, STCW, and ISM code. Let's start with the UNCLOS. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, also known as UNCLOS, is an international treaty that governs the use of the word ocean or sea and their resources. Adopted in 1982, it aims to balance the right and responsibility of nations regarding maritime boundaries. The law of the sea would divide the ocean into 6 different zones. First, the internal waters are all waters that fall landward of the baseline, such as lakes, rivers, and tidewater. The territorial sea are the most straightforward zone. Much like internal water, coastal states have sovereignty and jurisdiction over the territorial sea. This right extends not only on the surface but also to the seabed and subsoil, as well vertically to airspace. This zone exists to bolster a state law enforcement capacity and prevent criminals from fleeing the territorial sea. Within the contiguous zone, a state has the right to both prevent and punish infringement in fiscal, migration, sanitary, and custom law. Within the territory and territorial sea, unlike the territorial sea, the contiguous zone only gives jurisdiction to a state on the ocean surface and floor. It does not provide air and space rights. State may claim an exclusive economic zone or EEZ that extends 200 nautical miles from the baseline. In this zone, a coastal state has the exclusive right to exploit or conserve and resources found within the water on the seafloor or under the sea floor subsoil. These resources encompass both living resources such as fish and non-living resources such as oil and natural gas. Unlike the territorial sea and contiguous zone, the EEZ only allow for the previously mentioned resource right and the law enforcement capacity to protect those rights. It does not give a coastal state the right to prohibit or limit freedom of navigation or overflight, subjection to very limited exceptions. The continental shelf is a natural seaward extension and land boundary. This seaward extension is geologically formed as the seabed slopes away from the coast, typically consisting of a gradual slope, the continental shelf proper, followed by step slope, the continental slope, and then a more gradual slope leading to the deepest floor. These are areas collectively known as the continental margin, are rich into natural resources including oil, natural gas, and certain minerals. High seas areas beyond national jurisdiction where freedom of navigation, overflight, fishing, and scientific resources are available to all states provided they follow international regulations. And lastly, I would like to share my understanding in maritime boundaries between the countries. These boundaries determine each country exclusive economic zone where they have the right to explore and exploit the natural resources. For example, if the two countries have the overlapping claims to a certain area of the ocean, they must negotiate a maritime boundary to determine who has the right to that area. Another important UNCLOS is the protection of marine resources. Countries are required to manage their fisheries sustainably and prevent overfishing in their exclusive economic zone. And finally, UNCLOS allow countries to extend their continental shelf beyond 200 nautical miles if they can prove that it is a natural extension of their land territory, and also promote scientific research in the deep sea and encourage countries to share data and collaborate on marine research projects. Next one is the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, known as SOLAS. Is a crucial maritime treaty established to ensure safety at sea, adopted by International Maritime Organization or IMO in 1974, entering into force in 1980. SOLAS set minimum safety standards for the construction, equipment, and operation of ships. Principle and provision of SOLAS. Number 1. Safety of ships. SOLAS mandate that ships must be designed, constructed, and maintained to ensure safety. This includes requirements for hull integrity, stability, and proper functioning of machinery. Number 2. Life-saving appliances. Ship must carry life-saving equipment such as lifeboat, life jacket, and life raft. SOLAS set a specific standard for the quantity, quality, and deployment of these devices. Number 3. Fire protection. SOLAS outline requirements for fire detection and suppression system, including fire alarms, extinguisher, and fire-resistant materials. Ship must have a fire safety plan and regular drills. Number 4. Safety navigation. The convention mandates that ships must be equipped with the navigational aids such as radar, compasses, and communication equipment. It also includes requirements for voyage planning and record keeping. Number 5. Cargo handling. SOLAS include provision for the safety handling and storage of cargo to prevent accident and damage during transit. Number 6. Safety management system. The International Safety Management or ISM code, part of SOLAS requires shipping companies to implement safety management system to ensure compliance with safety regulation and continuous improvement. Number 7. Training and certification. Crew member must proper training and certification to operate life-saving equipment, handle emergency, and maintain safety standards. Here are some examples of SOLAS in action. Number 1. The Titanic disaster. Respond the sinking of the RMS Titanic in 1912 highlighted the need the stringent safety regulation. Although SOLAS was established after this event, many of its provisions such as lifeboat requirements and safety drills were influenced by Titanic disaster. Number 2. Enhancement following maritime accident. After incidents like the Exxon Valdez oil spill and the Costa Concordia disaster, SOLAS was updated to improve safety measures, including better response protocol and enhanced lifeboat requirements. Number 3. International Maritime Safety Regulation. Modern ships, including cruise liner and cargo vessel, are required to adhere to SOLAS standards, which ensure that they are equipped with advanced safety system that their crew is training to handle emergency. SOLAS remain a cornerstone or maritime safety, continually evolving to address new risks and technology in the shipping industry. Next is the International Convention on Load Line. Commonly referred to as the Load Line Convention, is an international treaty designed to regulate the minimum freeboard, the distance between the waterline and deck for ships. Its primary aim to ensure that ships are not overloaded and sufficient stability to remain safe during their voyages. Number 1. Load line marking. The convention requires ships to display load line indicating the maximum depth to which a ship can be safely loaded. These marks are adjusted based on the type of voyage and the water's salinity, freshwater or seawater. Number 2, freeboard. Requirement ships must adhere to freeboard requirements which are calculated based on the ship's dimension type and the expected sea condition. This requirement ensures that the ship has enough reserve buoyancy. Number 3, different zone and season. The load line marked and differentiated for various sea areas and season. For example, there are specific marking for voyages in tropical water versus temperate or polar waters. Number 4, survey and certification. Ships are surveyed periodically to ensure compliance with the load line requirements. A certificate is issued indicating that the vessel meets the necessary standards. Here are some examples that I provide. Number 1, container ship. A container ship must have its load line mark adjusted according to the amount of the type of cargoes or carrier. Overloading can be hazardous, especially in rough sea. So proper adherence to this mark is crucial for stability. Number 2, bulk carrier. Bulk carrier transporting coal or grain must also comply with the load line convention. Proper loading and adherence to freeboard requirements help and prevent the ship from becoming unstable or capsizing. Number 3, passenger ships. Such as crew liners must adhere to strict load line regulation to ensure the safety passenger. Proper loading helps maintain the vessel's stability or overall safety during its voyage. Understanding the load line is essential for maritime safety as it helps prevent accidents related to overloading and ensure that ships remain seaworthy under the various conditions. The International Convention on Standard for Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping for Seafarer, or STCW, is an international treaty designed to set a minimum training, certification, and watchkeeping standards for seafarers worldwide, adopted in 1978 and significantly amended in the 1995 and 2010, known as the Manila Amendment. STCW aimed to enhance maritime safety and protect the marine environment. Key aspect of this TCW: training and certification. TCW established requirement for the training and certification of seafarers. This include basic safety training, proficiency, and survival technique, and specific training for various shipboard rules. Second is watchkeeping. The convention specifies standard for watchkeeping to ensure that the ships are properly manned and monitor, reducing the risk of accident caused by the human error. Number 3, medical fitness. TCW requires seafarers to undergo the medical examination to ensure they are fit for duty, which help prevent health-related incidents at sea. Number 4, professional development. The convention encourages ongoing professional development and training to keep the seafarers' skills up to date with technological advancement and changing regulation. Number 5, certification renewal. Seafarers must renew their certification periodically, demonstrating that they have maintained their skill and knowledge. Example: deck officer on cargo ship must complete the TCW courses in navigation, cargo handling, and emergency procedure. For instance, an officer would need certification and advanced firefighting and survival craft and rescue boat to, to qualify for their role. Number 2, engine room. Personnel engineer and engine room staff must complete training related to machinery operation safety procedures and emergency response. This training ensures that they can operate and maintain ship machinery effectively. Number 3, crew ship. Crew member on the passenger ship must undergo STCW training that include crowd management, passenger safety, and first aid. This training is critical for handling emergency and ensuring passenger safety. Number 4, oil tanker. Crew member working on oil tanker are required to have specific training related and handling hazardous cargo such as advanced tanker cargo operation and chemical tanker operation. Understanding the STCW is crucial for maintaining high standard for safety professionalism in the maritime industry, ensuring that seafarers are well trained and capable of handling the rules of their rules effectively. Next is the International Safety Management or ISM code. Is a set of regulations established by the International Maritime Organization or IMO to ensure the safety at sea, prevent pollution, and manage ship operation effectively, adopted in 1993. And mandatory since 1998, the ISM code provides a framework for managing safety and the environment protection on the board ships. Key aspect of ISM code. Number 1 is the SMS or Safety Management System. The ISM code requires shipping companies to develop the implement and safety management system or SMS. This system outlines procedures and responsibility for ensuring safety and environmental protection. Number 2, company responsibilities. The code mandates that shipping companies ensure their SMS is effectively implemented and maintained. These include having a clear procedure for safety and emergency responses, as well as regular audit and review. Third, number 3, documentation. The SMS must be documented and include safety policies, risk assessments, and detailed procedure for the routine operation and emergency situation. Number 4, training and competence. The ISM code requires that all personnel receive adequate training to perform their duties safely. This includes regular drills and exercises to ensure the preparedness for emergencies. Number 5, compliance and audit. Ship and shipping companies must undergo regular audit to ensure compliance with the ISM code. This audit helps identify any shortcoming in the SMS and ensure corrective action are taken. Here are some examples that I provide. Oil tanker operation. An oil tanker company must have an SMS code, include the procedure for handling oil spills, maintaining safety equipment, and conducting regular drills. The SMS help ensure the safe handling and hazardous cargo and preparedness for emergency. Number 2, cruise ship. Cruise ship operator must implement an SMS covering passenger safety, emergency evacuation procedures, and crew training. Regular drills are exercises ensure that the crew members are ready to manage large number of passengers in emergencies. Number 3, container ship management. Container ship operator need an SMS addresses cargo handling procedure, including securing cargo to prevent shifting and maintain vessel the stability of the stability of the SMS help prevent an accident related to improper cargo handling. Number 4, bulk carrier. For bulk carrier, the SMS code should include procedure for loading and unloading bulk cargo, ensuring the ship remains stable and preventing accident related to cargo operations. Understanding and implementing the SM code is the crucial in enhancing safety preventing accident, and ensuring environmental protection in maritime operations. It provides a structured approach in managing ship operation and addressing safety concerns.